Chapter 1. The Burning. The smell hit me first, acrid smoke and burning rubber cutting through the cold November air. I was 3 blocks from the hospital, my 12-hour shift finally over, when I heard the explosion. My nurse's instincts kicked in before my brain could catch up. I ran toward the sound, my sneakers slapping against wet pavement, my scrubs still stained with the night's emergencies. Other people were running away, their faces painted with fear and the orange glow of flames. The black SUV was engulfed, fire licking up from the front end where it had collided with a light post. The driver's side door hung open, and I could see a man slumped over the wheel, blood streaming down his face. But it was the sound that stopped my heart, a child's scream, piercing and terrified, coming from the back seat. I didn't think. I never do in emergencies. That's what makes me good at my job and reckless with my life. The rear door was jammed. I could see him through the window, a little boy, maybe 3 years old, strapped into a car seat, his face contorted with fear. Flames were creeping along the undercarriage, and I knew we had seconds, not minutes. "Hold on, baby," I shouted, though I doubted he could hear me over his own screaming. I grabbed a rock from the street and smashed the window. Glass rained down, and I reached through, my arms screaming as I stretched for the car seat buckle. The heat was intense, singing the hair on my arms. My fingers fumbled with the mechanism. Why were these things always so complicated in emergencies? The buckle released. I pulled the boy through the window just as the flames reached the back seat. We tumbled onto the pavement together, and I rolled us away from the vehicle, covering his small body with mine. 10 seconds later, the gas tank exploded. The blast wave knocked the air from my lungs. My ears rang. The boy was crying against my chest, his fists clutching my scrub top. I held him tight, doing a rapid assessment, through my shaking hands. No burns, no obvious injuries. Miracle. "You're okay," I whispered into his dark curls. "You're safe now." That's when I heard the footsteps, not running, not panicked, but purposeful and measured. I looked up to see men in dark suits surrounding us, at least a dozen of them, appearing from nowhere like shadows gaining form. And then I saw him. He moved through the circle of men like a knife through water, parting them with his mere presence. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a perfectly tailored black suit that probably cost more than my car. His face was all sharp angles and controlled fury, with eyes so dark they looked black in the firelight. A thin scar ran along his left jawline, somehow making him more devastating rather than less. He stopped 3 feet away, staring at the boy in my arms with an expression I couldn't read, rage and relief warring beneath an iron mask of control. "Luca," he said, his voice low and rough like gravel wrapped in silk. The boy's head whipped up. "Papa." He launched himself from my arms into the man's, and I watched those powerful arms close around the child with surprising gentleness. The man's eyes closed for just a moment, and I saw something crack in that impenetrable facade, pure, raw fear. Then his eyes opened and locked on mine. I'd never been looked at like that before. It wasn't gratitude. It was something more intense, more possessive. He stared at me like he was memorizing every detail of my face, filing me away in some mental database. "Who are you?" His accent was slight, Italian maybe, giving his words an almost lyrical quality that didn't match the steel in his tone. Emma Foster. I'm a nurse at County General. I heard him screaming and you pulled him out." It wasn't a question. Yes. The door was jammed. I broke the window. His eyes traveled down to my arms, which I now realized were bleeding from a dozen glass cuts. "You're injured. It's nothing. Is he okay? I should check him over properly. And your driver?" "My driver is dead." He said it flatly, without emotion. "Marco will handle it." One of the suited men nodded and moved toward the burning wreckage. I opened my mouth to protest. There could be evidence. The police would need to investigate. But the words died in my throat at his expression. "You saved my son's life." He shifted Luca to one hip, and with his free hand, he reached out and grasped my wrist. His grip was firm, almost painfully so, his fingers wrapping completely around my slender wrist. "That means you're mine now." "What?" "You don't walk away from this. From him. From me." His thumb pressed against my racing pulse. "You understand?" I don't understand anything. I just did what anyone would. No." He cut me off, his voice deadly quiet. "No one else ran toward that car. I was watching. Dozens of people, And only you ran toward danger to save a child who wasn't yours. That makes you rare. That makes you valuable. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. His jaw tightened. Boss, we need to move, one of the men said urgently. He ignored him, still staring at me with those fathomless eyes. What's your full name? Emma Rose Foster. Why, where do you live? I'm not telling you that. A slight curve touched his lips, not quite a smile. More like the ghost of one. I'll know within the hour anyway. Marco. The man who'd moved toward the car turned back. Find out everything about Emma Rose Foster. Where she lives, where she works, who she loves, who she owes, what she fears. Everything. Horror crawled up my spine. You can't just... I can. He finally released my wrist and reached into his jacket. For one terrible moment, I thought he was going for a gun. Instead, he pulled out a business card and pressed it into my palm. You're in shock. When it wears off, you'll have questions. Call this number. I don't want... You don't have a choice anymore, Emma, he said. My name like he was tasting it, like he owned it now. You entered my world the moment you touched my son. There's no going back. He turned and walked away, Luca's face buried in his neck. The circle of men closed around them, and they disappeared into the darkness between buildings like they'd never been there at all. I stood there, trembling, holding a business card that simply read D. Moretti, and a phone number. No title, no company, just a name that sent ice water through my veins because I'd heard it before. Everyone in the city had heard it before. Dante Moretti, the devil of the 5 families. The man who controlled half the city's underground and had politicians in his pocket. The Mafia boss whose enemies disappeared without a trace, and whose word was law in the shadows where normal people feared to tread. And I'd just saved his son. The police arrived seconds later, their cars screeching to a halt. An officer approached me, but I barely heard his questions. I was staring at the place where Dante Moretti had vanished, my wrist still burning where he'd held it, his words echoing in my head. You're mine now. What had I done? Chapter 2. The Watching. 3 days passed, and I tried to convince myself it was over. I went to work. I smiled at patients. I pretended the burns on my arms were from a kitchen accident, and not from pulling a Mafia boss's son from a burning car. I threw away the business card without calling it, but I felt eyes on me everywhere. At the hospital, a man in a dark suit sat in the waiting room for hours, watching. He never checked in, never asked for help, just watched. When my shift ended, he was gone. At the grocery store, a different man. Same suit, same watchful presence. He pretended to shop, but his cart remained empty, and his eyes followed me through the aisles. Outside my apartment building, a black sedan with tinted windows. Always there when I came home. Always gone by morning. I told myself I was being paranoid. The police had questioned me about the accident, and I'd told them the truth that I'd pulled a child from the burning SUV and nothing more. They'd seemed satisfied. Case closed. But the watching didn't stop. On the 4th day, I arrived home from a night shift to find my apartment door slightly ajar. My heart stuttered. I kept a can of pepper spray in my purse. Lot of good it would do against whoever had broken into my home, and I pulled it out with shaking hands. I should call the police. I should run. Instead, I pushed the door open. My apartment was exactly as I'd left it, cluttered with medical textbooks. Yesterday's coffee cup in the sink. My scrubs draped over the couch. Nothing disturbed, nothing stolen, except for the manila envelope on my kitchen table. I approached it like it might explode. No return address, no name. Just thick, expensive paper sealed with what looked like a wax stamp bearing an ornate M. I opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Me leaving the hospital. Me at the grocery store. Me jogging in the park last Sunday. Me through my apartment window, brushing my teeth before bed. My stomach turned. Beneath the photos was a single sheet of paper with elegant, masculine handwriting. You have not called. This disappoints me. Your safety is compromised by your stubbornness. There are those who would hurt you to hurt me. Come to the address below tonight at 8. Do not be late. Do not bring police. Do not make me come to you. D.M. An address in the Diamond District, the wealthiest part of the city, where old money lived behind iron gates and security cameras. I should have been terrified. I was terrified. But underneath the fear was something else, anger. How dare he have me followed? How dare he invade my privacy like this? I'd saved his son's life, and this was how he repaid me? I grabbed my phone and dialed the number on the business card I'd fished out of the trash days ago. He answered on the first ring. Emma. That voice, dark and smooth. He'd been expecting my call. You received my message. You had me followed. You broke into my home. I protected you. There's a difference. I don't need your protection. I don't need anything from you. Silence. Then, quieter, almost gentle. Yes, you do. You just don't know it yet. I'm calling the police. No, you're not. He didn't sound concerned, just certain. If you wanted to involve the police, you would have done it days ago. You haven't because you're intelligent enough to understand that normal rules don't apply here. Not anymore. What do you want from me? To keep you alive. His tone shifted, losing some of its careful control. You think I'm your enemy, but I'm not. The moment you pulled Luca from that car, you became visible to people who would use you against me. Do you understand? That explosion wasn't an accident. Someone tried to kill my son. Now they know a woman risked her life to save him. They'll wonder why. They'll wonder if you mean something to me. But I don't. It doesn't matter what's true. It matters what they believe. A pause. Come to the address tonight. I'll explain everything. You'll be safe. Safe? With you? Safer than anywhere else. Something shifted in his voice, a note of dark amusement. I'm many things, Emma, but I don't hurt the people who save my son. Quite the opposite. The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. Every rational part of my brain screamed at me to run, pack a bag, leave the city, disappear. But Dante Moretti had found me in 3 days. If I ran, he'd find me again. And if what he said was true, if there really were people who would use me to hurt him. I looked at the photos spread across my table. In every single one, I was alone, vulnerable, unprotected. At 7:30, I got dressed. Not my scrubs this time, but jeans and a sweater, my most practical boots. I braided my hair back tightly and left my jewelry in the drawer. If I was walking into a lion's den, I'd do it ready to fight or run. The address led me to a mansion that looked like it belonged in a European fairy tale, all stone walls and iron gates, with gardens that probably required a full-time staff. The gate swung open as I approached, as if they'd been watching for me. They had been, of course. Cameras everywhere, and men in suits stationed at intervals along the driveway. I counted 8 before I stopped counting. The front door opened before I could knock. An older woman with steel-gray hair and kind eyes smiled at me. Miss Foster, we've been expecting you. This way, please. She led me through a foyer that could swallow my entire apartment, past rooms filled with art that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime, and finally to a set of double doors carved with intricate designs. She knocked once, then opened the door. Miss Foster, sir. I stepped into a study that smelled of leather and wood smoke, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a fireplace where flames danced, and behind an enormous desk, Dante Moretti. He stood as I entered, and I realized for the first time just how tall he was, easily over 6 feet, with the kind of build that came from real work, not just a gym. His suit was different from the night of the fire. Charcoal gray this time, but just as perfectly tailored. His dark hair was slightly mussed, and I wondered if he'd been running his hands through it. You came. He sounded genuinely surprised, almost. Pleased? You didn't give me much choice. There's always a choice. He gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit, please. I remained standing. You said you'd explain. A slight smile touched his lips, the same ghost of one I'd seen before. You're afraid of me, but you won't show it. I like that. I'm not afraid of you. Liar. He moved around the desk with that predatory grace, stopping just close enough to make my heart race. You're terrified. Your pulse is elevated. You're breathing shallow. But you came. Anyway, because you're brave. Foolishly brave. What? Do you want? To offer you a job. That was not what I'd expected. But, a job? Luca needs a nanny. Someone with medical training. Someone quick thinking in emergencies. Someone who would run into fire to save him. His eyes never left mine. You're perfect for it. I have a job. You're overworked and underpaid at that hospital. I'm offering triple your current salary, full room and board here in the mansion, and complete security. You'd be safe, Emma. Completely safe. As your prisoner? As my employee. He moved closer. Close enough that I could smell his cologne, something expensive and dark. And as Luca's guardian, he's been asking about you. The woman with gentle hands who pulled him from the fire. He wants to thank you properly. My resolve cracked slightly. He's okay? Physically, yes. Emotionally? Dante's jaw tightened. He has nightmares. He wakes up screaming about fire and smoke. The nanny we had quit, she wasn't equipped to handle trauma. But you. His eyes searched mine. You understand trauma. I've read your file, Emma. I know what happened to your sister. Cold fury flooded through me. How dare you? I told you I'd learn everything. His voice was gentler now, almost apologetic. I know Sarah died in a house fire when you were 17. I know you tried to save her but couldn't get past the flames. I know that's why you became a nurse, why you work so hard, why you ran toward that burning car when everyone else ran away. He paused. I know you're still trying to save her. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and caught a tear that had escaped down my cheek. His thumb was surprisingly gentle. I know you're haunted by what you couldn't do. Let me give you a chance to do what you couldn't before. Save Luca. Save him from the nightmares, from the fear. You've already saved his life. Now save his ability to live it. It was manipulation, and I knew it. Using my pain, my guilt, my desperate need to protect children because I couldn't protect my sister. It was cruel and calculated and exactly the right thing to say to make me consider his offer. 1 month, I heard myself say. Trial period. If it doesn't work out, I walk away. Deal. He held out his hand. I looked at it strong, scarred, dangerous. The hand of a man who'd probably ordered deaths, who lived outside the law, who was offering me salvation and damnation in the same breath. I shook it. His fingers closed around mine, and this time his grip was gentle, almost reverent. You won't regret this. But I already did. Chapter 3. The Settling. I moved into the Moretti mansion the next day. My room was bigger than my entire apartment, all cream walls and soft lighting, with a bed that could fit 4 people and a bathroom that looked like something from a luxury hotel. There was a sitting area by the window, a walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in exactly my size, and fresh flowers on the dresser. If you need anything, just ask. The housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, told me with that same kind smile. Mr. Moretti wants you to be comfortable. Comfortable. Right. As comfortable as anyone could be, living in a gilded cage with a man who probably had blood on his hands. I met Luca again that afternoon. He was in the nursery, though. Calling it a nursery was like calling the Sistine Chapel a church. It was a wonderland of toys, books, and educational equipment that must have cost a fortune. But Luca sat in the corner with a single stuffed lion, watching the door with wary eyes. When he saw me, his face lit up. Angel lady. I knelt down to his level. Hi, sweetheart. Remember me? He nodded vigorously and threw his small arms around my neck. You saved me from the fire. Papa said you're gonna stay now. For a little while, yes. I hugged him back, feeling something in my chest crack open. He was so small, so fragile, and he'd been through something no child should experience. How are you feeling? Okay. But his grip on my neck tightened. I have bad dreams sometimes. That's normal after something scary happens. Do you want to tell me about them? He pulled back and shook his head, his dark eyes so like his father's filling with tears. Fire comes back, and Papa can't find me. Oh, honey. I brushed his dark curls back from his forehead. The fire is gone now, and your Papa is right here. You're safe. You promise? I shouldn't promise. I didn't know if he was safe. I didn't know anything about this world I'd stumbled into, but looking into those trusting eyes, I couldn't help myself. I promise. We spent the afternoon playing, reading books, and getting to know each other. Luca was bright, curious, and starved for gentle affection. He showed me his favorite toys, told me stories in the rambling way 3-year-olds do, and held my hand like I might disappear if he let go. When dinner time approached, he grabbed my hand tighter. Will you eat with me and Papa? I don't think. Please? Papa eats alone lots. He's lonely. Somehow I doubted Dante Moretti was ever truly alone, but I nodded. Okay, but just tonight. Luca led me through the mansion to a private dining room I hadn't seen yet. It was intimate compared to the formal dining room I'd glimpsed earlier, a table for 6, warm lighting, and windows overlooking the gardens. Dante was already there, standing by the window with a glass of what looked like whiskey. He'd shed his suit jacket and rolled up his shirt sleeves, revealing powerful forearms marked with more scars. When he turned and saw us, his expression softened in a way I hadn't seen before. "Papa, Emma's eating with us." "I see that." His eyes met mine over Luca's head. "Thank you." The dinner was surprisingly normal. Luca chattered between us, telling his father about our afternoon in exhaustive detail. Dante listened with complete attention, asking questions, laughing at Luca's jokes, being nothing like the cold, commanding man I'd met before. This was a father, just a father, loving his son. It made him more dangerous somehow, easier to hate a monster than a man who clearly adored his child. "Emma." Dante's voice pulled me from my thoughts. "Luca should be in bed soon. Will you handle bedtime?" "Of course." "Good." He stood, and I realized he was leaving. "I have business to attend to. I'll be in my study if you need anything." "Business, right. The kind of business that required armed guards and happened after dark." I pushed the thought away and focused on Luca, getting him bathed and into his dinosaur pajamas. We read 3 bedtime stories, his choice, and I stayed with him until his breathing evened out into sleep. When I finally left his room, I found one of Dante's men waiting in the hallway. "Mr. Moretti would like to see you in his study." My stomach tightened. "Now? If you're not too tired." I was exhausted, but I nodded and followed him through the quiet mansion. Most of the staff had retired for the night, leaving just the security guards stationed at intervals. The study door was ajar, and I could see Dante at his desk, reviewing papers by lamplight. The guard knocked. "Miss Foster, sir." "Come in, Emma. Close the door." I did, suddenly very aware that we were alone. Truly alone for the first time since that night at the fire. Dante set down his papers and studied me with those penetrating eyes. "How is he?" "Asleep. He went down easily tonight, but he asked me to leave the nightlight on and the door cracked. He never used to need that." Pain flickered across Dante's face. "Before the attack, he'd sleep through anything. It'll get better with time. Trauma healing isn't linear, but children are remarkably resilient." "Are they?" He stood and moved to the window, his back to me. "Or do we just tell ourselves that so we can sleep at night?" There was something raw in his voice, something wounded. This wasn't the Mafia boss. This was just a father, terrified for his son. "Mr. Moretti, Dante." He turned back to me. "Call me Dante. You're not my employee, Emma. You're something else." "What am I?" He crossed the distance between us in 3 strides, stopping close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "You're the woman who saved my son. The woman who came back even though you were afraid. The woman who made him smile today for the first time since the fire." His hand rose, and this time I didn't flinch away as he tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "You're someone I need to keep safe." "From what?" "From the people who want to destroy me." His fingers lingered at my neck, barely touching. "I have enemies, Emma. Powerful ones. They'll use anyone close to me as a weapon. That's why I can't let you leave. So I am a prisoner. You're protected." His thumb traced my jawline with devastating gentleness. "There's a difference. It doesn't feel different. It will." He dropped his hand and stepped back, and I could breathe again. "Get some rest. Tomorrow I'll show you the security protocols. You'll need to learn them if you're going to stay here safely." I nodded and turned to leave, but his voice stopped me at the door. "Emma?" "Yes. Thank you. For being here. For helping him. For..." He paused, searching for words. "For not running when you had the chance." I looked back at him, this dangerous, damaged man, who loved his son enough to cage a stranger to keep her safe. "I'm still thinking about running." A real smile touched his lips this time, transforming his face. "I know. That's what makes you interesting." I left before I could say something stupid, my heart pounding and my mind racing. I was in so much deeper than I'd realized. This wasn't just about keeping Luca safe. This was about something more complicated, more dangerous. This was about the way Dante looked at me like I was a puzzle he needed to solve, the way his touch made my skin burn, the way some broken part of me recognized something broken in him. I was in trouble, and I had no idea how to get out. Chapter 4, The Routine. 2 weeks passed, and I fell into a rhythm I hadn't expected, one that felt dangerously close to normal. My days revolved around Luca. We'd wake early, have breakfast in the nursery, then spend mornings on educational activities. He was smart as a whip, already learning to read simple words and count to 50. Afternoons were for play-building elaborate block towers, painting messy masterpieces, or exploring the mansion's extensive gardens under the watchful eyes of security. His nightmares were getting better, slowly. He only woke up screaming twice that first week, then once the second. Each time, I was there within seconds, holding him until the terror passed. And each time, Dante appeared minutes later, his hair mussed from sleep, wearing nothing but pajama pants that sat low on his hips and revealed a body that made my mouth go dry. He'd stand in the doorway, watching me comfort his son, something unreadable in his dark eyes. "You're good with him," he'd said on the third night, his voice rough with sleep. "He makes it easy." "No, you make it look easy. There's a difference." He'd moved closer, crouching beside the bed where I sat with Luca curled against me. "He trusts you completely already. Do you know how rare that is?" I'd look down at the sleeping child. "He needs stability, safety, someone who won't leave him." "And you won't?" The question had hung between us, loaded with meaning I wasn't ready to examine. "Not while he needs me. What about after?" I hadn't answered, couldn't answer, because the truth was becoming increasingly complicated. The mansion stopped feeling like a prison and started feeling like something more dangerous, like home. Mrs. Chen treated me like family, always making sure my favorite foods appeared at meals. The guards nodded respectfully when I passed, no longer watching me like a threat. Even Marco, Dante's right-hand man, had warmed to me after I'd stitched up a cut on his hand when the doctor couldn't arrive quickly enough. "You've got good hands," he'd said, watching me work with professional efficiency. "Boss made the right call bringing you here." But it was the evenings that were most dangerous. After Luca went to bed, Dante would appear sometimes in his study, sometimes in the library, once in the kitchen at midnight when neither of us could sleep. We'd talk about everything and nothing, about Luca's progress, about the books we'd read, about places we'd traveled, dreams we'd had before life got complicated. He never talked about his work, and I never asked. That was the unspoken rule between us, the line we didn't cross. Until the night everything changed. It was Thursday, exactly 16 days after I'd moved in. I was in the library, curled up in my favorite chair with a medical journal, when Dante entered. He looked different, tense, angry, his jaw tight and his movements sharp. "You should go to your room." His voice was clipped. "Lock the door. Don't come out until morning." I set down my journal. "What's wrong?" "Nothing that concerns you." "Dante." I said go. He snapped it, and I flinched despite myself. This was the man from the fire, the cold Mafia boss, not the gentle father I'd been getting to know. I stood, but I didn't leave. "Is Luca safe?" "He's always safe. That's not—" He cut himself off, running a hand through his hair. "Just go, Emma. Please." The please did it. I'd never heard him say it like that, like he was begging. I went, but I didn't lock my door. And when I heard the shouting start an hour later, I crept into the hallway. Voices echoed from Dante's study, his and at least two others, all speaking rapid Italian. I couldn't understand the words, but I understood the tone. Anger, accusations, threats. Then I heard the crash. My nurse's instincts overrode my common sense. I ran toward the study and burst through the door without knocking. 3 men turned to stare at me. Dante stood behind his desk, his knuckles bloody, a broken glass at his feet. A stranger sat in the chair across from him, holding a cloth to a bleeding nose. Marco stood to the side, his hand inside his jacket where I knew he kept a gun. "Emma." Dante's voice was dangerously quiet. "I told you to stay in your room." I heard a crash. I thought someone was hurt. "Someone is hurt." He gestured to the bleeding man. "But he's not worth your concern." The man laughed bitterly, speaking in heavily accented English. "So this is why you've been distracted, Dante? Playing house with your son's pretty nurse?" Something dark flashed in Dante's eyes. "Be very careful what you say next, Salvatore." "Or what? You'll hit me again?" Salvatore sneered. "You're getting soft. First you let someone attack your car, nearly kill your son. Now you're keeping a civilian here like she's part of the family. The other families are talking. They think you're vulnerable. Let them think what they want. They're planning something. You know they are. And she," he pointed at me, "she's a weakness they'll exploit." Dante moved with terrifying speed, hauling Salvatore out of the chair by his collar. "She's off limits. You tell every family, every associate, every 2-bit thug who thinks they can use her against me she's under my protection. Anyone who touches her dies slowly. Understand? You can't protect everyone, Dante. Eventually, you'll have to choose. Dante's fist connected with Salvatore's jaw, and the man crumpled. Marco and another guard I hadn't noticed moved to drag him out. Get him out of my sight, Dante growled. And make sure the message is clear. Emma Foster is family now. Family rules apply. They hauled Salvatore away, leaving me alone with Dante. He stood there, breathing hard, his knuckles dripping blood onto his expensive carpet. You're hurt. I moved toward him, but he held up a hand. Don't. Let me see your hand. Emma. Now. I used my nurse voice, the one that brooked no argument. Sit. To my surprise, he did. I knelt in front of him, gently taking his injured hand in mine. His knuckles were split in 2 places, already swelling. I needed supplies. First aid kit? Bathroom. Left cabinet. I retrieved it and returned, cleaning his wounds with efficient, practiced movements. He watched me work in silence, his breathing gradually evening out. You shouldn't have come down here, he finally said. Probably not. You could have been hurt. So could you. I met his eyes. That's what you're not getting, Dante. I don't just care about Luca. I stopped, realizing what I'd almost said. You what? His good hand came up to cup my cheek. Finish that sentence, Emma. I care about both of you. It came out as a whisper. I shouldn't, but I do. He stared at me for a long moment, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. You're right. You shouldn't. I'm not a good man, Emma. I've done things that would horrify you, ordered things that would make you run screaming. I know what you are. Do you? He leaned closer. Do you know how many men I've killed? How many lives I've ruined? Do you know what I'm willing to do to protect what's mine? Luca is what's yours, not me. You became mine the moment you saved him. His voice dropped to a rough whisper. And every day since, you've been burrowing deeper into places I thought were dead. So yes, Emma, you're mine, whether you want to be or not. That's not how it works. In my world, it is. He pulled me closer, and I could feel the heat radiating from his body. Tell me to stop. Tell me you don't feel this thing between us, and I'll let you go. I'll keep you safe, but I'll stop looking at you like I'm looking at you right now. I should tell him to stop. Should push him away and run back to my room. Should remember that he was dangerous, that this was impossible, that nothing good could come from falling for a man whose hands were stained with blood, but I didn't. I can't tell you to stop, I whispered, because I'd be lying. His eyes darkened with something fierce and hungry. Then hold on, Bellissima, because I'm done fighting this. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle or sweet or testing. It was claiming, possessive, a kiss that said you're mine more clearly than any words could. His hand slid into my hair, angling my head exactly how he wanted it, and I melted against him like I'd been waiting for this since the first moment I'd seen him. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. You're playing with fire, I whispered against his lips. Good. He smiled, dark and devastating. I like watching things burn. Chapter 5. The Claiming. I didn't go back to my room that night. Dante led me upstairs to his bedroom, a space I'd never entered before, masculine and elegant with dark wood furniture and a massive bed that dominated the room. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens, and I could see the security lights marking the perimeter like a constellation of warnings. Second thoughts? He stood behind me, his hand settling on my waist with a possessiveness that should have frightened me but instead sent heat pooling low in my belly. 1,000 of them. Name one, and I'll take you back to your room. His lips brushed my neck, just below my ear, and I shivered. I'll walk away and never touch you again. All you have to do is say the word. I turned in his arms, meeting those dark eyes. What's the word? Stop. He said it simply, his hands gentle on my waist, despite the hunger I could see in his face. That's always the word, Emma. With me, with this, always. You say stop, and everything stops. Something in my chest cracked at the care in his voice. The genuine offer of control in a situation where I should have. None. This man who commanded with absolute authority was giving me power over him. I reached up and touched his jaw, feeling the scratch of stubble, the heat of his skin. I don't want to stop. His control shattered. He kissed me again, deeper this time, walking me backward until my legs hit the bed. We fell together, a tangle of limbs and desperate touches, and for the first time in years, I felt completely alive. He took his time undressing me, his scarred hands reverent as they revealed my skin. When he found the burn scars on my arms, the ones from the fire that killed my sister, he paused. These? From before. A different fire. Understanding flickered in his eyes, and he lowered his head, pressing gentle kisses to each scar. You've been marked by fire twice now. Saving people you love. I didn't save her, but you tried. He looked up at me. You always try, don't you? That's who you are. The woman who runs toward danger to save others, even when it costs you. Tears burned my eyes. Dante, I see you, Emma. All of you. The scars you hide. The guilt you carry. The desperate need to save everyone because you couldn't save her. He moved up my body, caging me beneath him. Let me carry some of that weight. Let me protect you for once, instead of you protecting everyone else. I pulled him down to me, and we came together with an intensity that stole my breath. He was careful with me, attentive, reading my responses like a language he'd been studying. When I gasped, he repeated the movement. When I tensed, he gentled. When I finally shattered in his arms, he held me through it, whispering words in Italian I didn't understand but felt in my bones. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my spine. Through the window, I could see the first hints of dawn. Tell me something real, I whispered. Something that has nothing to do with who you are out there. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I wanted to be a pianist. I lifted my head to look at him. What? Before all this, before I inherited the family business, I wanted to play piano, classical music, concert halls, that whole impossible dream. He smiled, self-deprecatingly. My father said it was weak. Music was for women and fools, not for men who would rule empires. Do you still play? Sometimes, late at night when no one's listening. There's a music room on the 3rd floor. I'll show you sometime. I settled back against his chest. I'd like that. What about you? What did you want before you became a nurse? To be a dancer. I felt him tense in surprise. Ballet, specifically. I trained from age 5 until 17. Was accepted into a professional company. Had my whole life planned out. What happened? Sarah died, and I couldn't dance anymore. Every time I tried, I'd see the fire, remember her screaming. I closed my eyes. So I became a nurse instead. Figured if I couldn't dance, I could at least save lives, make up for the one I couldn't save. His arms tightened around me. You don't owe the universe your happiness because your sister died, Emma. Don't I? No. He tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his eyes. Sarah wouldn't want you living in guilt. Neither would any of the people you've saved since then. They'd want you to live. Really live. Not just exist in penance. Is that what you're offering? Life? I'm offering everything I have. His expression was fierce, possessive. My protection, my home, my son who already loves you, my bed, my... He stopped, jaw clenching. You're what? My heart. He said it like a confession, like it cost him something. If you want it, it's not a good heart, Emma. It's dark and damaged and it's done terrible things, but it's yours if you'll take it. I should say no. Should protect myself from the inevitable pain this would cause. We were impossible, the Mafia boss and the nurse. Fire and water, darkness and light. But I was already falling. I want it, I whispered. God help me, I want all of it. He kissed me again, sealing the deal in a way that felt more binding than any words. When we finally fell asleep, tangled together as dawn broke over the gardens, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. Chapter 6. The Unraveling. I woke to an empty bed and the sound of shouting downstairs. Panic clawed up my throat as I grabbed Dante's discarded shirt and pulled it on, running barefoot into the hallway. The shouting was coming from the main floor, multiple voices, all angry, all raised. I found them in the foyer. Dante, dressed in fresh clothes, standing nose to nose with a man I didn't recognize. Marco was there, along with half a dozen guards, all watching the confrontation with tense readiness. Can't just declare her family without the council's approval. The stranger was shouting. You're not a king, Dante. You don't make these decisions alone. I don't need the council's approval for my personal life, Victor. When your personal life affects all 5 families, yes you do. Victor's face was red with fury. You're making us vulnerable. First the failed hit on your son. Now this civilian living in your home, warming your bed. Dante's fist connected with Victor's jaw before anyone could move to stop him. The older man staggered backward, blood streaming from his mouth. Speak about her again, Dante said, his voice deadly calm, and I'll kill you where you stand. Family ties be damned. That's when Victor saw me standing on the stairs in Dante's shirt, my hair mussed from sleep, and his eyes widened with vindication. So it's true, he laughed bitterly, spitting blood. The great Dante Moretti, compromised by a woman. Your father is rolling in his grave. My father, Dante growled, can rot. Marco, get him out. Dante, Marco began, but Dante cut him off. Now. They escorted Victor out, his threats echoing behind him about the council, consequences, votes of no confidence. I waited until the door slammed before descending the stairs. What was that about? Dante turned to me, and I saw the cracks in his control, the fury barely contained, the fear beneath it. Get dressed. We need to talk. 20 minutes later, I was in his study, properly clothed, trying to make sense of what he was telling me. The 5 families operate under a council system, he explained, pacing behind his desk like a caged animal. All major decisions require unanimous approval from family heads. Victor represents the Castellano family, and he's been looking for a reason to challenge my leadership since I took over. And I'm that reason? You're the excuse. He stopped pacing, bracing his hands on the desk. The real issue is that I'm consolidating power in ways that threaten the old guard. The attack on Luca was meant to destabilize me, make me seem vulnerable. Instead, I got stronger, more careful, more ruthless. They don't like it. So what does this mean for us? His eyes met mine. It means the council will demand I send you away, for your safety and theirs. They'll argue that keeping you here makes all 5 families targets. Cold dread settled in my stomach. And will you? No. He said it firmly, without hesitation. You're not a bargaining chip, Emma. You're not a weakness to be eliminated. You're... He stopped, struggling with words. What am I? Everything. He moved around the desk, pulling me to my feet, his hands framing my face. You're everything I didn't know I needed. You gave me back my son's smile. You made this house feel like a home instead of a fortress. You made me remember what it feels like to be human, instead of just a weapon for family interests. Dante, I won't give you up. Not for the council, not for the families, not for anyone. His thumb stroked my cheekbones. But I need you to understand what that means. Choosing you means war. It means the other families will move against me. It means danger for you, for Luca, for everyone in this house. Then maybe I should go. Don't. His grip tightened. Don't you dare martyr yourself for me. I've been fighting these families my whole life. If they want war, they'll get war. But I'm not fighting it alone anymore. I'm fighting it for you. Before I could respond, the study door burst open. Mrs. Chen stood there, her normally calm face twisted with fear. Mr. Moretti, it's Luca. He's gone. Time stopped. Dante moved faster than I'd ever seen him, already shouting orders into his phone as he ran toward the nursery. I followed, my heart in my throat, praying this was a mistake, that Luca was just hiding or playing somewhere unexpected. But the nursery was empty. The windows were open windows that were always kept locked, and on the bed lay a single piece of paper with a message that made my blood run cold. You want her? Come get your son first. Alone. Midnight. The old warehouse district. Tell anyone. And he dies. The council Dante's roar of rage shook the walls. Chapter 7. The Revelation. The mansion erupted into controlled chaos. Marco mobilized every guard, every associate, every person who owed Dante loyalty. Phones rang constantly. Maps were spread across every surface. Men in suits arrived by the dozen, all grim-faced and armed. And I stood in the middle of it, frozen with horror. This was my fault. They'd taken Luca because of me. It's not your fault. Dante appeared beside me, his jaw set, his eyes cold with fury. But his hand, when it touched my shoulder, was gentle. This was always coming. You're just the excuse they used. He's 3 years old, Dante. He must be terrified. He's strong, like his father. But I could see the fear beneath the iron control. We'll get him back. The note said alone. I'm aware of what the note said. He turned to face me fully. And I'm going alone. That's insane. It's obviously a trap. Of course it's a trap. His lips twisted into something that wasn't quite a smile. But it's also the only play I have. They want me isolated, vulnerable, without my army. Fine, I'll give them that. And when I'm close enough, I'll kill every single person who thought they could take my son. The absolute certainty in his voice sent chills down my spine. This wasn't the man who'd held me last night, who'd offered me his heart. This was the devil of the 5 families, the killer whose reputation was built on blood. Let me come with you. No, Dante. No. He gripped my shoulders. You stay here, where it's safe. Marco will protect you. If I don't come back. Don't say that. If I don't come back, he continued firmly. Marco has instructions. Money, documentation, a new identity. You'll be taken somewhere far from here where the families can't reach you. You'll be safe. Tears burned my eyes. I don't want to be safe. I want you and Luca alive. I know, Bellissima. He kissed my forehead, soft and lingering. But if I can only give you one of those things, I choose your safety. Always. He started to pull away, but I grabbed his jacket. Wait. You can't just walk into this blind. You need leverage. I have leverage. They want me dead, but they need the appearance of justice to keep the other families in line. That gives me room to negotiate. That's not enough. You need something else, something they're not expecting. I stopped, a terrible idea forming. What? Dante's eyes narrowed. I know that look. Whatever you're thinking, no. They want you isolated. They expect you to come alone, desperate, willing to do anything for Luca. What if you don't? What if you come with exactly what they're not prepared for? Emma, me. I said it before I could lose my nerve. I'm what they want, right? The weakness they think they can exploit. So give me to them. Absolutely not. Listen to me. I grabbed his face, forcing him to look at me. I'm a nurse. If Luca is hurt, he needs me. And if I'm there, they'll underestimate you, because they'll think you're distracted trying to protect me. It gives you an advantage. It also puts you directly in danger. I'm already in danger. We all are. I gentled my voice. Let me help save him, Dante. Like I helped save him from the fire. We do this together. I could see the war in his eyes, every protective instinct screaming at him to refuse, balanced against cold tactical thinking that recognized the truth in my words. Finally, he pulled my hands from his face and kissed each palm. If you come, you follow my orders exactly. No improvising, no heroics. You do what I say when I say it. Understand? Yes. And Emma? His eyes were dark, fierce. If it comes down to a choice between you and everyone else in that warehouse, I choose you. Every time. Luca would understand. He'd forgive me, but I'll never forgive myself if I lose you. Then don't lose me. He kissed me hard and fast, tasting of desperation and determination. Get dressed. Something dark, boots you can run in. We leave in an hour. The old warehouse district was a wasteland of abandoned buildings and broken dreams. The kind of place where people disappeared and nobody asked questions. Dante's car, a nondescript sedan, not his usual armored SUV, pulled up to the largest warehouse at 11:45. Remember, he said quietly. You stay behind me until I say otherwise. If shooting starts, you run. Straight back to the car, to Marco. He'd sent his right-hand man ahead to watch from a distance. Don't look back, don't hesitate. Just run. Okay. He touched my face one last time, then opened the car door. The warehouse was lit by industrial lights, casting harsh shadows. As we entered, I saw them at least 20 men in suits, arranged in a semicircle. In the center stood Victor, his jaw still bruised from Dante's punch. And beside him, held by a guard, was Luca. My heart broke at the sight of him. His face was tear-stained, his little body trembling. But when he saw Dante, his face lit up. Papa! The guard's hand clamped over his mouth. Dante Moretti. Victor's voice echoed in the cavernous space. You came, and you brought the girl. How touching. Let my son go, Victor. This is between us. Is it? Victor gestured to the men around him. I recognized some as family heads, others as high-ranking soldiers. This is about the council, about the families. You've become a liability, Dante. Too independent, too powerful, too willing to break tradition. You mean I stopped letting old men like you dictate my life? We built this empire. We made you. No. Dante's voice was cold steel. My father built this empire, and I perfected it. You're just parasites living off the scraps. Victor's face purpled with rage. Arrogant to the end. You think you're untouchable because you're Moretti? Because you have money and men and power? None of that matters when the entire council stands against you. Then let's settle this the old way. Dante spread his arms. You and me, Victor. Leave Emma and Luca out of it. We fight until one of us doesn't get up. The winner takes control of the council. Traditional enough for you? A ripple of surprise moved through the assembled men. This was clearly not what they'd expected. Victor laughed. You think I'm stupid enough to fight you hand to hand? I've seen what you can do, boy. No, this ends differently. He snapped his fingers, and 3 guards grabbed me. Don't touch her. Dante started forward, but a dozen guns appeared, all pointed at his chest. Victor tesked. One more step and they shoot. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to watch while we make your little nurse disappear. Then you're going to sign over control of your family operations to the council. And if you're very lucky, we'll let you and your son walk away with your lives. You're making a mistake. Dante's voice was eerily calm, and I saw something predatory shift in his eyes. Last chance to let them go, Victor. Take me if you want, but let them go. Why would I do that when they're the only leverage I have? Victor moved toward me, reaching out to grab my chin. What's so special about this one anyway? Pretty, I'll give you that, but hardly worth starting a war. He never finished the sentence. The lights exploded, plunging the warehouse into darkness. Gunfire erupted from every direction, not from the council's men, but from above, from the shadows, from everywhere and nowhere. I dropped to the ground as the guards released me, trying to return fire at enemies they couldn't see. Dante was on Victor in seconds, using the darkness and chaos as cover. I heard the impact of fist on flesh, Victor's scream of pain, then silence. Someone grabbed my arm, and I almost screamed until I heard Marco's voice. This way, Miss Foster. Stay low. He led me through the darkness, guided by some sense I didn't possess. Behind us, the firefight continued disciplined, precise, nothing random about it. Dante had planned this. We found Luca huddled behind a crate, his guard unconscious on the ground. I grabbed the boy, holding him tight, and Marco led us both out through a side door. Outside, more of Dante's men waited, forming a protective barrier. The shooting inside the warehouse gradually died down, replaced by shouting, then sirens in the distance. And then Dante appeared, blood on his knuckles, his suit torn, but alive, whole, victorious. He saw us, and his entire body sagged with relief. In 3 strides, he had us both in his arms, his face buried in Luca's hair. I thought I'd lost you. His voice broke. Both of you. We're okay, I whispered. We're all okay. He pulled back just enough to kiss me, hard and desperate, not caring about the audience or the chaos or anything except the fact that we'd survived. When he finally released me, his eyes were deadly serious. It's done. Victor's dead. 3 family heads surrendered. The council is dissolved. What does that mean? It means I'm done playing by their rules. He touched my face gently despite the violence still thrumming through him. No more council. No more old traditions. Just me, my family, and the people I choose to protect. Is that what you want, Emma? Because once you say yes to this, there's no going back. You're in my world completely. I looked at Luca, who'd fallen asleep against Dante's shoulder, exhausted from his ordeal. Then at Dante, this dangerous, devoted man who'd just fought an entire council to protect us. I'm already in, I said softly. All the way. Chapter 8. The Choice. The aftermath of the warehouse was a blur of police questioning, legal maneuvering, and media frenzy that Dante's lawyers handled with practiced efficiency. The official story, a dispute between rival criminal organizations that resulted in Victor Castellano's death and the dismantling of a corruption ring within the city's oldest families. Nobody mentioned the nurse who'd been there. Nobody mentioned the child who'd been used as leverage. Dante made sure of that. We returned to the mansion at dawn, all 3 of us exhausted and traumatized in different ways. Luca clung to me like a barnacle, and I had no intention of letting him go. Dante walked beside us, his hand never leaving my back, as if needing the physical confirmation that we were real, safe, his. He should see a counselor, I said quietly as we climbed the stairs to the nursery. Both incidents in less than a month, that's a lot of trauma for a 3-year-old. Agreed. I'll make the arrangements. Dante's voice was hoarse from shouting orders during the firefight. What about you? What about me? You were held at gunpoint, Emma. Threatened. Used as leverage. That's traumatic for anyone. I looked at him. This man who'd just dismantled an entire criminal council to save his son and protect me, and managed a tired smile. I'll be fine if you both are. That's all I need. His eyes softened. We're going to have to work. On your martyr complex. We put Luca to bed together, taking turns sitting with him until he finally settled into sleep. The sun was fully up by the time we retreated to Dante's bedroom, both of us moving like we'd aged a decade overnight. Shower, Dante said, pulling off his torn, bloody shirt. Then sleep. We'll figure out the rest later. But as the hot water washed away the warehouse's grime and fear, reality began to settle. This was my life now. This violence, this danger, this world where children got kidnapped and men died in firefights. Could I really live like this? Could I raise Luca in this world? Did I have a choice? Dante found me sitting on the bathroom floor after my shower, wrapped in a towel, staring at nothing. He crouched beside me without a word and pulled me into his arms. Talk to me. I can't do this. It came out as a broken whisper. I thought I could, but Dante, they took Luca. They were going to kill me to hurt you. How do I live knowing that might happen again? How do I watch him play and know that somewhere, someone might be planning to take him away? The same way I've lived with it since he was born. His voice was rough with emotion, with fear in my heart and guards at every door, and the absolute certainty that I'll burn down the world before I let anyone hurt him again. That's not a life. That's a siege. It's the life I have, the life I'm offering you. He pulled back to look at me. I won't lie to you, Emma. There will always be danger, always be risks. I've made too many enemies, broken too many rules, taken too much power. But I can minimize those risks. I can build walls so high and so strong that no one can touch what's mine. We'd be prisoners in a gilded cage. We'd be safe in a home we control. He touched my face. But if you can't live like this, I understand. I'll set you up somewhere far from here, give you enough money to start over, protect you from a distance. You'll be safe, Emma. Even if you're not with me, you'll be safe. I swear it. He meant it. I could see it in his eyes, the willingness to let me go if that's what I needed. Even if it broke him. This man who controlled everything, who demanded absolute loyalty, was offering me freedom. What about Luca? Pain flickered across his face. He'll miss you. We both will. But you can't stay just for him. That's not fair to anyone. What if I'm staying for me? Hope sparked in his dark eyes. Are you? I thought about the past month, about the way Luca had healed in my presence, how his nightmares had faded, about the way Dante looked at me like I was his salvation and his downfall, about how, despite everything, I'd felt more at home in this mansion than anywhere I'd lived since Sarah died, about how, for the first time in a decade, I'd stopped trying to save everyone else and let someone try to save me. I'm terrified, I admitted, of the danger, of losing you both, of failing Luca the way I failed Sarah, but I'm more terrified of walking away and spending the rest of my life wondering what if. What if I'd been brave enough to stay? What if I'd chosen love over fear? Love? His voice was barely a whisper. Yes. I met his eyes steadily. I love you, Dante. I love your son. I love the life you're offering, even with all its impossible complications. So I'm choosing to stay, not because you're forcing me, not because I have no other options, but because this is where I want to be. He kissed me then, slow and deep and reverent, like I was something precious he'd never expected to hold. When we finally broke apart, there were tears on his cheeks. I love you. He said it fiercely, like a vow. I'll spend the rest of my life keeping you safe, making you happy, proving you made the right choice. I know I did. We made it to the bed this time, and our lovemaking was different from before, slower, more tender, layered with the knowledge of what we'd almost lost. Afterward, we lay tangled together, and I felt him, relax completely for the first time since the warehouse. What happens now? I asked. With the families, the council, all of it? Now I rebuild. Consolidate power, eliminate threats, establish new rules that don't put civilians at risk. His fingers traced patterns on my spine. It'll take time, but I'm patient when I need to be. And us? 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 He propped himself up on one elbow, looking down at me with eyes full of heat. Us. I'm not patient about it all. Marry me, Emma. I stared at him. What? Marry me. Make it official, legal, permanent. Be my wife, Luca's mother, the one thing in my life that's completely mine. He touched my face. Unless you need more time. Yes. Because I can wait if you... He stopped. What? Yes, I'll marry you. I smiled at his shock. Did you really think I'd say no after everything? I thought you'd want to think about it, consider the implications, maybe date for a while like normal people. I kissed him to shut him up. We're not normal people, Dante. Normal people don't fall in love in a month. Normal people don't face down criminal councils together. Normal people don't rescue children from fires and decide to build a family in the aftermath. I touched his face, feeling the stubble, the warmth, the reality of him. I love you. I want to marry you. So let's skip the traditional timeline and do what works for us. His smile was devastating. You're extraordinary, you know that? I'm terrified and in love and possibly insane. But yes, let's go with extraordinary. He kissed me again, and we got lost in each other until there was a knock on the door. Papa? Luca's voice, small and scared. Bad dream. We both moved immediately, pulling on clothes and opening the door. Luca stood there in his dinosaur pajamas, clutching his stuffed lion, tears streaming down his face. Come here, baby. I picked him up, and he buried his face in my neck. The bad men came back. Just a dream, Dante said softly, running a hand over Luca's hair. The bad men are gone forever. Emma and I made sure of it. Promise? Promise. He met my eyes over Luca's head. We both promise. We brought him into our bed first, breaking Dante's rule about Luca sleeping alone and curled around him protectively. Within minutes, he was asleep again, safe between us. He called you Emma, Dante whispered in the darkness. I know. Should we tell him? About us? About me being his new mother? I smiled. Let's give him a few days to process the trauma. Then we'll tell him together. He deserves to know he's getting a family, not just a nanny. A family. Dante said it like he was testing the word. I'd almost forgotten what that felt like. Well, remember fast, because you're stuck with us now. His arm tightened around both of us. Best trap I've ever walked into. Chapter 9. The Surrender. The wedding happened 3 weeks later, small and private in the mansion's garden with only people we trusted. Marco stood up as Dante's best man, looking simultaneously proud and terrified of what he'd helped unleash. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony, and Luca, wearing a tiny tuxedo that made him look impossibly grown up, held the rings with solemn importance. When Dante slid the band onto my finger platinum with diamonds that probably cost more than most houses, his hands shook slightly. You're mine now, he whispered. Officially, legally, irrevocably mine. I was always yours, I whispered back. This just makes it official. The kiss was chaste for the audience but promised heat for later. Luca cheered, and the small gathering of guards and staff applauded. Can I call you Mama now? Luca asked as soon as the ceremony ended, tugging on my dress. I crouched down to his level, my heart full. Would you like to? Yes, because you're Papa's wife now, and that makes you my mama. He threw his small arms around my neck. The best mama ever because you saved me from the fire. I held him, tight, tears streaming down my face. And you saved me right back, baby. All of you did. Dante joined us, and we stood there, a family, real and permanent, and ours. Around us, the garden bloomed with late autumn flowers, and I thought about fire and rebirth, about how sometimes you have to burn down completely to build something new. That night, after the reception and after we'd put an exhausted Luca to bed, Dante led me to the third-floor music room I'd never seen. It was beautiful wood floors, perfect acoustics, and in the center, a concert grand piano. You said you wanted to hear me play. He sat at the bench and patted the space beside him. I settled next to him, and he began. The music was haunting, beautiful, something classical I didn't recognize but felt in my bones. His fingers moved over the keys with the same precision and control he brought to everything else. But here, in this private space, he let his guard down completely. When the piece ended, I realized I was crying. Chopin, he said softly. Nocturne in E-flat major. My mother used to play it when I was young, before she died. It's beautiful. So are you. He turned to face me fully. I never thought I'd have this, Emma. A wife, a family, someone who sees past the monster to the man underneath. You gave me that. You're not a monster. I'm both. He said it simply, without apology. I've done monstrous things to protect what's mine. I'll do them again if I have to. But with you, with Luca, I get to be human too. That's what you gave me, the permission to be both. I took his scarred hands in mine. Then I'll love both versions. The monster who protects his family and the man who plays Chopin at midnight. He kissed me there on the piano bench, soft and slow, and it felt like coming home. The weeks turned into months, and we built our life. Luca's nightmares faded, replaced by dreams of superheroes and dinosaurs. He started preschool at a private academy with more security than Fort Knox, but he thrived there, making friends and learning with the same fierce intelligence his father possessed. Dante dismantled the old family structure, restructuring his empire to focus on legitimate business, with only a few gray area operations left. He'd never be completely clean, too much history, too many enemies, but he tried. For us, he tried. And me? I went back to nursing part-time, working at a clinic Dante funded for underserved communities. It wasn't the same as the ER, but it let me use my skills while still being home for Luca every evening. We had dinner together every night, the three of us around the table, talking about our days like any normal family. Except we weren't normal, and we never would be. There were still guards at every door, still threats that Dante handled before they reached us, still moments when I woke up and checked that they were both breathing. But there was also love. So much love it sometimes overwhelmed me. The way Luca would run to me after school, yelling "Mama," like I was the best thing in his world. The way Dante looked at me across the dinner table, his eyes soft with the kind of devotion that made me feel cherished and claimed in equal measure. The way we'd curl up together at night, 3 bodies in one bed, and I'd feel safer than I'd ever felt in my life. 6 months after the wedding, I came home from the clinic to find Dante and Luca in the garden, both covered in dirt, planting flowers. What's this? Luca jumped up, excited. We're making a memory garden. Papa said we should plant flowers to remember all the good things. Dante stood, brushing dirt from his hands. He wanted to plant something for the day you saved him from the fire. I thought we could make it bigger, a flower for every important moment. I looked at the garden beds they'd prepared, already imagining them full of blooms. That's perfect. We planted together that afternoon roses for the day we met, lilies for the wedding, sunflowers for the wedding, Luca's first day of school, and in the center, where everyone could see, we planted forget-me-nots. For Sarah? Dante asked quietly as we knelt in the dirt. I nodded, tears blurring my vision. She'd have liked you, I think. Would have told me I was crazy for falling for a mafia boss, but she'd have understood why. Why did you? It wasn't a question he'd asked before. Fall for me, I mean. I gave you every reason to run. I looked at him, this complicated, dangerous, devoted man who'd given me everything. Because you saw me. Not the nurse, not the hero who ran into fires, not the girl trying to make up for her dead sister. You saw Emma, and you loved her anyway. How could I not fall for that? He kissed me there in the dirt, with Luca giggling beside us, and the guards pretending not to watch from their posts, and the sun setting over our garden. I love you, he whispered against my lips. Every day, more than the day before. I love you too. I touched his face, feeling the stubble, the warmth, the life we'd built together. Both of you, my beautiful, impossible family. We're not impossible, Luca said seriously. We're real. I can touch you. He proceeded to demonstrate by hugging us both, and we collapsed into laughter on the grass, tangled together like we'd always been meant to be. Later that night, after Luca was asleep, Dante found me on the balcony off our bedroom, staring at the gardens below. Regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. None. I leaned back against his chest. Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life, that I'm married to you, that Luca calls me Mama, that we're building something real here. Believe it. His lips brushed my temple. You're mine, Emma Moretti. For now, for always, for every life after this one. Possessive. Always. But there was warmth in his voice, amusement. You knew what you were getting into. I did. I turned in his arms to face him. And I'd choose it again, every single time. Choose you. Choose this life. Choose the beautiful chaos of loving you both. He kissed me slow and deep, and I tasted forever on his lips, a forever we'd fought for, bled for, chosen despite every reason not to. A forever that started with fire and ended with love. Epilogue. The life. 1 year later, I stood in the same garden where we'd married, watching Luca chase butterflies through the flowers we'd planted together. He was 4 now, all long limbs and endless energy, laughing as he ran. Dante appeared beside me, slipping his arm around my waist and pulling me close. He's happy. He is. I leaned against him. We all are. Even you? No lingering doubts about choosing life with a criminal? Former criminal, I corrected with a smile. You went legitimate, remember? Mostly legitimate. His eyes glinted with dark amusement. There are still a few gray areas. I can live with gray. I touched his face. As long as I can live with you. He kissed me gently, and I felt the same spark that had been there from the beginning. The pull between fire and water, darkness and light, danger and safety. We were contradictions that somehow worked, impossible pieces that fit. Mama! Papa! Look what I found! Luca ran toward us, his hands cupped carefully around something. What is it, baby? He opened his hands to reveal a small bird, its wing clearly injured. He's hurt. Can we fix him? I looked at Dante, and we both smiled. Our son, who'd survived fire and kidnapping, who'd seen violence and danger, and who'd still grown into a boy who wanted to save injured creatures. We can try, I said, taking the bird gently. Let's get him inside and see what we can do. As we walked back to the house, Dante, Luca, and me with our tiny patient, I thought about saving and being saved. About how I'd run toward fire to pull a child free and ended up saving myself in the process. About how the most dangerous man I'd ever met had given me the safest place I'd ever known. About how sometimes love means surrender, not giving up, but giving in to something bigger than yourself. Choosing it even when it's terrifying, even when it's impossible, even when every rational part of your brain screams to run. I'd chosen fire and found home in the flames, and I'd do it again in a heartbeat.